Hello everybody, and welcome back to more Kerbal Space Program. We were on our way to Minmus, as you can clearly see here. Now, before we actually get started with getting over there, which, I mean, we just kind of have to speed up time and then get into orbit, which is fine. But before we do that, I do need to mention that I have been playing the hell out of this game so much. I love it. I love it. I played last week and then I got really into it again, and now I really wanted to play more. So I played the hell out of it this week, and I learned a lot of new things, including how to aero brake properly with aero brake maneuvers, and how to, get back from moons and get to moons easier. In fact, I even got on my other save game a successful lander to Duna, which actually went and surveyed all of the biomes of Duna, which was pretty sweet. And not only that, but I've managed to get to several other planets, including return trips with some pretty cool stuff. So I've learned a lot about the game, including how to make this mission even more successful, which is why I mentioned that. So as you see here, we have Minmus, and we'll take it, we'll target it and everything, but we see our periapsis here, obviously. Now, we are orbiting Kerbin. That's exactly what we are doing currently. But we want our periapsis of our apoapsis. I know I said that twice, but our apoapsis of Minmus closer to Minmus, because it'll make it easier to actually get a successful landing and orbit if we wanted to. So what I'm going to do here is I'm gonna do a little bit of retrograde, literally a little bit, you could watch the throttle here as I do a little bit more. Like, I'm barely tapping it, and it's moved it significant amounts. Now we're looking at about that is a pretty good number for now. So let's speed up time and let's get there. Also, I have coffee, the drink of geniuses and hipsters. Yes, I'm separating those two out. So I might be a little bit more hyper than usual, but let's speed up our time. That's pretty good as far as time speeding up is concerned. You're going to see Minmus coming into view here as we get a little closer. And as our speed slows down significantly, this is just what happens. So we are kind of on a wonky axis here, as you can clearly tell, but it's going to work. And you know what? As long as we can get back to Kerbin, which we very easily can from Minmus, then I'm not too concerned, just to be perfectly honest. Speed it up a little bit more, and there, perfect. So now what we want to do is get a at least, a collision course, an orbit, something. Probably an orbit would be better around Minmus. How much fuel do we actually have? Loads. We have loads of fuel. Let's go with an orbit. How about that? And we will do an EVA, because if I recall correctly, we do have Jebediah with us. So what we want to do is kind of do a retrograde, but there's actually an easier way to get an orbit. But I'm gonna show you all this, because once again, things I've learned as I've progressed in my main game. So I can retrograde all I want, but you see it's not really changing this all that much. So there are different ways to do it. Is it north? It might be north or south here. I think it's north. It's south. Okay. So it's the other direction. Not north, but south. Nope. Go back. Okay. So now what we're going to do, now that we're facing south, is now you can see this sucker changing way quicker, which is what we want. So we want this changing to go down a bit more. And then I am going to, from here, I am going to actually retrograde. Right? So what this is going to do is it gets my orbit closer to Minmus, and then now I'm going to slow us down to actually get us into an orbit. So we're going to watch the exit thing here very closely as we retrograde. And it should loop around and give us somewhat of an orbit. Okay, what's our periapsis at? 44,000. That's, you know what? That's pretty good. What's our fuel at? Once again, rocking it on the fuel. So we're going to speed up time, and we're going to get to our periapsis, and we are going to make a stable orbit around Minmus. which in itself is fairly cool to be able to do. And in fact, I'm going to be very gentle on the timing here, and I'm going to quick save. By the way, pro tip, someone sent me a private message about this before I've made a terrible mistake. If you have 2 saved games going and you quick save in one, and in the other one you quick load, you hold F9 and you load your quick save, what it'll actually do is load the quick save from the previous game, and it'll overwrite everything from your other one. So thankfully someone mentioned that, knowing that I was playing 2 games. So it's a known bug in the game right now. I meant to go retrograde. I don't know why I went prograde, but we will retrograde. If I can actually go back to it. I like that my craft is so maneuverable right now, and I don't even have RCS on it, but I do overshoot it quite a bit. Okay, let's get that orbit. Watch that apoapsis just shrink. And it's almost there. I mean, I'm only at like a quarter of my actual throttle. So, probably about 40. Yeah, that'll be good. Actually, that's a fairly circularized orbit, which is really nice. The next thing I'm going to do, because we have a lot of freaking fuel still, and I mean, you got to think we're actually going to be slowing ourselves down with all of this mass. So, in reality, you actually do want to... Oh, that's weird. It's not actually giving me any science while over Minmus. So we'll reset that. Oh, that's because we did our probe. I forgot about our probe. Did we probe Minmus? We did. Okay, so we're going to EVA, and we're going to do an EVA report then. Yep, we'll keep that. We will get back in there. And we will do a crew report, and we will keep that data. But then, do I actually have a... Oh, come on, please tell me I put a thing on. I don't think I put a transmitter on, so I don't think I can even transmit that data back. Oh, that's disappointing. Okay, so we're going to lose some of that data, but that's fine. Oh, well. Anyways, as I was saying, we do want to burn off some of this fuel by giving us a better axis of this. Because, I mean, basically... Well, actually, I'm going to... Can I set Kerbin as my new target? Come on. No, it's not going to let me. Okay, that's fine. But basically what I want to do here is get my axis kind of even with where Kerbin's at there, and it'll actually make it easier to take off. Then again, right now, if I took off from Minmus and pointed my way towards Kerbin, I would avoid the moon, but I do want to just go with a level one. It'll make it easier. One of those weird things, but, you know, it is what it is. So can I get this kind of right? I think I need to move this whole thing close to this direction. You know what? That's better than as wonky as we are. So let's point ourselves towards the node. And this will help burn off fuel, so we're not bringing in so much freaking weight to our actual landing of this. And I could probably actually do this burn right now. It's not going to affect too much if I do it then as opposed to now. And notice how I'm barely using any throttle. I mean, when you're out in space, little movements account for a lot. Especially when you have as much engines on your craft as we do. And in reality, you want, when you're out in, you know, like interplanetary space, when you're moving to different moons and planets, you want more fuel and less engines that are more efficient. Because it's better for how much you're actually pushing around as far as weight goes. So just one of those little pro tips. Okay, so we now need to land. So I'm going to try to find, as you can see, Minmus is very bumpy. So I'm going to try to find a nice soft landing spot somewhere within our orbit here, and then I will make the maneuver. So I actually think that might be the best as far as landing goes, kind of in this general area. It's the least bumpy of my entire orbit that I have, and I could change my axis here, but I think I'm going to land in this flat area-ish. I mean, up here would probably be a lot better. It's more smooth, it's way less bumpy. But I like a challenge, and I think I could hit that target. So I am going to point myself towards the maneuver node, and then we are going to speed up time and actually execute the maneuver. As you can tell, we don't need a lot of burn in order to start ourselves into an intercept trajectory with the moon itself. There, okay. Gives me plenty of time to readjust this. See, it's almost retrograde. Almost, but it probably will be by the time that the timer is up. So we're actually going to go to the burn time on this, which is about 4 seconds. And here we go. And right. Wow, it actually put me in a different spot. Oh, that's because Minmus rotated. Didn't realize that. It's fine, we got prograde. We'll prograde back into the direction we need to be. That is perfectly fine. How about... Because, I mean, landing there is now going to be a lot more difficult than I thought it would be. So, how about... there. Yeah, that looks right. Let's remove this node, and let's get in there. So, here comes the dangerous part, as you are all well aware from when we landed on the moon. It's slowing our descent speed. Now, we're just going to double check something, that this is all set up correctly as far as staging goes. Yep. And, yep. Okay. So, just making sure that way when we're going down and slowing our descent, that we're actually not getting into a bit of trouble there. I'm pretty sure Minmus also has a lower gravity well to it than the moon, but I could be wrong on that. Which would, of course, mean that you would need less thrust to actually slow down enough. But once again, I could be completely wrong. However, I'm only going 119 meters a second currently, so we're doing pretty good as far as our descent speed goes. We're not going in at it like 300 meters a second, which I think was closer to what we were when we were on the moon. But we're just going to be really gentle with this landing. And can I quick save now? Yep, that would be a perfect time to do so. This spot looks really smooth, actually. I'm kind of impressed with the new landing location that we have here. But just going to be very gentle on the throttle when we actually go for it. Don't really need to yet. Let's get to a little lower. And then we'll burn off a bit. It's probably closer to where we need to be. So let's put this up. And probably, I don't want to put brakes on, but I do want to put my gear out. Remember all the landing gear that we have? Hopefully that will stabilize us. What I'm going to do is no matter what, if those fuel tanks actually burn out there, I'm going to hold on to them because it'll make sure that we still have a stable craft. But when taking off, we will get rid of them. That way, you know, we're landing properly and we have a stable craft when we land, but when we take off, we're not taking any of that, that extra weight with us. So that's kind of the plan there. Normally, though, if I was landing on a planet, you don't have to do this kind of thing. You just use parachutes, so it shouldn't be too much more of an issue. So keep that in mind when building your craft. If you're going to be landing on a planet and it has an atmosphere, just use parachutes and use an aero brake maneuver, and you can look up how to do that. Or you can wait like 2 episodes until I actually get to another planet, which is hopefully the next goal after doing this mission. But obviously we shall see. And we are coming in extremely slowly, which is nice. So I'm going to speed this little process up a little bit. We're still coming in nice and slow. I just keep making sure that the actual speed of my descent is coming in slow. And I'm just making sure that where I'm going to be landing is going to be nice. So I'm also only burning retrograde if I can. So I'm making sure that that I don't go, you know, too much on the throttle and then start burning prograde. Otherwise, that kind of throws off where you're going to be landing. And you don't want that. Remember when we landed on the moon? That was kind of the issue there. But we had to do it because we were landing in a crater, which isn't good. The other thing to take into consideration when you're landing on a moon or a planet is the way that it is rotating. This is less important on planets that have atmosphere because you're just going to be parachuting anyways. But if you're doing something like this, you got to take in consideration of the actual rotation of the planet itself. You see how the retrograde just changed on me? That's because now I'm considered on the surface, so it is now letting me know which direction I need to burn based on which direction the actual moon is moving, in order to no longer be moving at such a high velocity to 1 degree, you know, to the side. I'm sure I don't need to explain that anymore. I'm sure you guys can figure that out. It's fairly self-explanatory. You just don't want the moon moving underneath you, basically. But it looks like we are coming in. Oh, those engines just died out, which means I'm just gonna have to watch our prograde here, because if, you know, I don't want to burn too much or too little. I just want to be kind of gentle. I want to come in at like 2 meters a second. I think that would be good. So let's burn a little bit more. A little less. About right there. Yeah, that's nice. So I am going to, once again, set up retrograde. If I can actually land less than a meter a second, that would be preferred. We're about to touch down. Let's go a little bit more. Let's cut it. This is going quite nice. Now that was way more smooth than our landing on the moon, but it was brilliant. So let's observe some mystery goo. I'm going to do this again when I take off. It'll be a bit more difficult, obviously, because I'll be taking off, but you know how it is. So we'll do one of these. That way we kind of get a on the surface, like actually on the surface, and then a low orbit thing as far as the science points are concerned. Now, what we're going to do here is just turn on the lights, because it's going to make us a lot easier to see where the heck we're going when we EVA.